In the village of Umueda, 16-year-old Amoka was married to King Uza, a ruler nearing his late 60s. Amoka, with her striking beauty and gentle spirit, looked like a flower just beginning to bloom, while Uza's face bore the weight of age and secrets long kept. The villagers marveled at the king's fortune to wed such a young bride, though whispers of unease lingered. King Uza's 6 previous wives had all died under mysterious circumstances, and yet, with each loss, the king's power grew, and the kingdom of Umueda prospered. Unbeknownst to anyone, the king's authority wasn't simply a result of age or wisdom, it came from a dark pact. Uza was part of a secret brotherhood that required a price, a life bound to him by marriage. Each time he took a wife, her life was sacrificed, her spirit bound to strengthen his reign and enrich the land. This time, however, Uza's choice of bride would be his undoing. Amoka was not an ordinary bride. Though no one could see it, she was, in fact, the spirit of Uza's lost daughter. Her mother, one of Uza's first wives, had died carrying her. The motherland had heard her unspoken cries and granted her another chance to walk the earth, a chance for justice. In her heart, Amoka carried the memory of her mother, a shadowed past, and a purpose she had yet to fulfill. This marriage was her entry, her way into Uza's world. Soon, he would learn the true cost of his actions. The drums beat a slow, rhythmic cadence as Amoka walked toward the palace, her steps light yet purposeful. Villagers gathered along the path, cheering, their faces filled with hope for the prosperity this union would bring. The elders blessed her, sprinkling water mixed with herbs, a symbolic gesture for the beginning of her new life. As she approached King Uza, she felt the weight of his gaze, a mix of possession and calculation. She knelt before him as tradition dictated, her veil casting a shadow over her eyes. "Welcome, my queen," Uza said, his voice filled with an unsettling confidence. Amoka met his gaze from beneath her veil, her own eyes unwavering. "Thank you, my king," she replied, her words laced with a meaning he did not understand. The palace felt like a gilded cage. Amoka observed everything, the grand hall, filled with treasures from distant lands, the towering columns engraved with symbols of power, and the servants who moved in quiet obedience. As the night fell, Amoka sat alone in her chambers, feeling the weight of her role settling on her. The spirit within her stirred, sensing the darkness that permeated the palace walls. Uza entered the room, his eyes examining her as if she were an object, something to be used and discarded. She felt a surge of anger but kept it hidden. "My queen," Uza said, approaching her. "You have a duty to fulfill. I expect you to honor it." Amoka's lips curved into a faint smile. "I am here for a reason, my king," she replied softly. "I will fulfill my duty." As the weeks passed, Uza prepared for the ritual that would bind Amoka's life to his power. He performed his secret rituals in the dead of night, reciting chants in a hidden chamber beneath the palace. Charms, bones, and strange symbols adorned the space. He believed this ritual would ensure his reign for decades to come, just as it had before. Unbeknownst to Uza, Amoka's spirit sensed each of his attempts, and with each ritual, her resolve grew stronger. The king's powers, meant to bind her, instead seemed to bounce back, unsettling him. Shadows danced around him as his chants faltered, whispers filling the chamber as if his previous wives were calling out from the beyond. One night, as Uza slept, Amoka wandered through the halls, drawn to a faint sound, a whisper calling her name. She followed it to an old chamber, where she found tokens from each of Uza's past wives. A comb, a necklace, a piece of cloth, each item carried the soul of its owner, a life cut short. As Amoka touched each object, she felt the spirits of the wives reaching out to her, their anguish and anger filling her. Her purpose became clearer. She would not only avenge her mother's death but would also bring justice to the spirits of each of these women, lost to Uza's greed. Uza attempted his first ritual with Amoka, a ceremony disguised as a blessing. He recited the incantations, expecting her spirit to submit. But as the ritual neared its climax, something went wrong. The charm that was meant to bind her shattered in his hand, and a cold wind filled the chamber. Amoka's eyes met his, and in them, he saw something he could not explain, a knowing look, a power that defied his own. Fear crept into Uza's heart as he realized this marriage was different. This bride was not like the others. Days turned into weeks, and Amoka's presence began to change the palace. Uza felt a chill whenever she was near, as if shadows lingered in her wake. Servants whispered about strange occurrences, mirrors cracking, candles extinguishing themselves, and faint whispers echoing through the halls. Amoka grew bolder, testing the king's patience. She dropped hints, recalling words and events from his past, memories that only someone close to him could know. Each time, Uza's fear grew, and he avoided her gaze, sensing that he was no longer in control. Realizing he was no longer in control, Uza confronted Amoka in a last-ditch effort to assert his power. He demanded her obedience, using threats and the authority of his position. But Amoka stood her ground, unflinching, her voice calm but filled with a hidden fire. "I am not here to serve you," she said, her eyes locking onto his. "I am here to end what you began. You may have taken the lives of those before me, but you will not take mine." Uza felt a chill run through him, as if his own blood had turned to ice. In her gaze, he saw the truth. She was more powerful than he could ever have imagined, and her purpose was set. As Amoka revealed the truth to the villagers, a sense of horror filled the community. They gathered around the palace, whispering of the king's sins, of the 6 wives who had died for his prosperity. The elders convened, and they called upon the spirits to bring justice, their voices echoing through the night. Amoka led the villagers to the secret chamber, where the relics of the past wives lay. As the truth unfolded, the villagers turned against Uza, demanding his end. The spirits of the wives appeared one by one, surrounding Uza, their faces filled with the anguish of their stolen lives. In a final act of vengeance, Amoka summoned the power of the motherland. The spirits of Uza's past wives took hold of him, draining him of the years he had stolen. His body withered before the eyes of the villagers, his strength fading with each breath. As the life drained from him, Uza's final moments were filled with the faces of his past wives, their voices echoing in his mind, condemning him for his deeds. The villagers watched in awe and fear as their once mighty king crumbled to dust, his life ended by the very spirits he had sought to control. After Uza's fall, the people gathered at the river where Amoka had often been seen. They performed a ceremony, naming it Amoka's River in her honor. The river became a sacred place, a site of renewal and reverence, where the people could remember the spirits of those lost and the justice that Amoka had brought. Shrines were built along the riverbank, each one adorned with offerings, flowers, and symbols of protection. Amoka's River became a place of strength and guidance, a reminder that, though delayed, justice would always come. Generations passed, and Amoka's River remained a central part of life in Umueda. The villagers continued to honor the sacred waters, each family passing down the story of Amoka, the young queen who had returned to bring justice. Her tale became woven into the fabric of Umueda, a reminder that justice and courage are the roots of true strength. The river's banks became a place where young and old alike could seek peace, where the echoes of Amoka's spirit continued to bring guidance and comfort. And so, Amoka's River flowed eternally, a river not only of water but of memory, justice, and the spirit of the motherland. As the years passed, the villagers developed new traditions to honor Amoka and the river that carried her spirit. They began holding an annual festival, a day when the people of Umueda gathered along the riverbanks to celebrate her legacy. Families prepared offerings of flowers, fresh fruits, and woven cloths, which they laid at the edge of the water. Children painted their faces with symbols of protection, elders shared stories of Amoka's courage, and musicians played songs that echoed the memory of the young queen's resilience. During this time, mothers would tell their children of Amoka's bravery, of how she had fought against darkness and saved their village. Each generation grew up with a deep respect for her story, knowing that she had given her spirit to protect the land and its people. Amoka's river became a sacred site, and villagers would come seeking blessings, especially in times of hardship. They believed that Amoka's spirit would watch over them, and it became common practice for young women to visit the river before marriage, asking for guidance and protection. The river's presence grew into a symbol of purity, justice, and peace, a constant reminder that the spirit of the motherland would always protect those who acted with honor and courage. One year, a wandering seer arrived in Umueda and spent days meditating by the river. The villagers watched her with interest, knowing her reputation as a wise woman who could see into the future. When she finally rose from the riverbank, she called the elders together and shared a vision she had seen in the water. She spoke of a time when outsiders might come, drawn by tales of the river's blessings and powers, seeking to take from it without understanding its sacred nature. Her warning carried weight, and the elders knew they would need to remain vigilant to protect the river from those who did not respect its spiritual significance. Neka, the village's young leader who had grown up hearing stories of Amoka, called the people together and urged them to make a pledge. They swore to protect the river and its sacred waters, vowing to honor Amoka's memory by safeguarding the legacy she had left them. To symbolize this promise, each villager placed a small stone at the river's edge, forming a protective boundary around it. Neka led the people in prayer, asking for Amoka's continued guidance and blessing, her voice steady and filled with respect. As Umuede grew, a new generation of children began to play by the river, raised with a strong reverence for the sacred water. They would gather near the banks, splashing in the shallows under the watchful eyes of their parents, who reminded them of the river's significance. Children were often told of the young queen's courage, her spirit intertwined with the water they played in. One girl named Edeora felt a particular connection to the river and spent hours listening to the soft murmurs of the water. She began having dreams of Amoka, seeing her walk alongside the river and offering silent guidance, and she grew up feeling that her future was somehow tied to protecting the land and the river. The river became known for its healing powers, with villagers finding relief from ailments after washing in its waters. Ifeoma, the village healer, began using the river's water in her herbal remedies, her skills widely known throughout Umueda. She often sensed Amoka's spirit guiding her as she gathered plants by the riverbank, her movements filled with purpose. When people from other villages came seeking her help, they were told the stories of the river and instructed to approach with respect, honoring the land that had blessed them. One night, Ifeoma dreamed of Amoka appearing by the river, her figure shining under the moonlight. Amoka spoke to her in a voice like the flowing water, telling her that the river's future depended on the villagers' continued respect and protection. When Ifeoma shared this dream with the elders, they recognized it as a sacred message, a reminder that Amoka's spirit was still watching over them. They reinforced their promise to guard the river and to teach the coming generations to honor Amoka's legacy. As Neka grew into her role as leader, she initiated a new tradition called the Sacred Waters Festival. This festival was held each year on the anniversary of Amoka's victory, celebrating her bravery and the protection she offered their village. The entire community would gather along the riverbanks, bringing offerings and performing dances that symbolize strength and resilience. Young girls and boys, dressed in traditional attire, would reenact scenes from Amoka's story, ensuring that her memory remained alive in the hearts of the young. Neka dreamed of Amoka one last time, a vision that filled her with purpose. She saw Amoka standing by the river, her face serene, blessing her for leading the village with strength. "You have done well," Amoka said softly. "Protect this river, for it holds the future of Umueda." Neka awoke with a renewed sense of duty, knowing that Amoka's spirit had entrusted her with the legacy of the river. In the final years of her life, Ifeoma continued to work as the village healer, guided by Amoka's spirit. Her remedies became known for their miraculous qualities, and the people of Umu-Eda knew that she was truly blessed. She dedicated her life to the sacred waters, visiting the river daily, leaving offerings, and performing quiet prayers. On her last day, Ifeoma walked to the river and sat by its edge, looking into its depths with gratitude. She felt Amoka's presence surround her, filling her with peace as she closed her eyes for the last time. As generations passed, Amoka's river remained a central part of life in Umu-Eda. The people continued to honor the waters, and each family told stories of the brave young queen who had saved them. Her tale became woven into the fabric of Umu-Eda, a reminder that justice and courage are the roots of true strength. The river's banks became a place where young and old alike could seek peace, where the echoes of Amoka's spirit continued to bring guidance and comfort. And so, Amoka's river flowed eternally, a river not only of water but of memory, justice, and the spirit of the motherland.